The Germans are making contingency plans for the collapse of Europe. Welcome to the Shikama Live Show with your host, Shikama. The German Defense Ministry set out its worst case scenario for the year 2040 in a secret document that was leaked per Die Spiegel last week. EU enlargement has been largely abandoned, and more states have left the community. The increasingly disorderly, sometimes chaotic, and conflict-prone world has dramatically changed the security environment. The 120-page long paper, entitled Strategic Perspective 2040, is a federal government policy document, and the scenarios it imagines are grimly realistic. An East-West conflict in which some EU states join the Russian side, or multipolar Europe, where some states adopt the Russian economic and political model in defiance of the Lisbon Treaty. That the document exists at all is a sign of the increased tension in the global system. The German military tradition of rigorous logistical planning for every eventuality began with the celebrated German Field Marshal Moltke in the 1850s, and has 3 times paid off with initial success. Despite the alarmist headline it has generated, the leaked document is, if anything, over-optimistic. In 3 out of the 6 scenarios, things go so well that Europe reassembles the Biedermeier era, 1850-1848, of domestic bliss and military boredom. Its negative scenarios, which see the U.S. struggling to avoid isolationism and China locked in a cultural war with the West, were written before Donald Trump came to power, before Xi Jinping's strategy of creating a politicized Chinese infrastructure across Asia. The journalists to whom the document was leaked have omitted any details of what Germany is planning to do about the EU's possible collapse and fragmentation. But this is the problem facing the entire Western world. Though the urgent problem is terrorism, the important ones are the decline of consent among populations for the present economic system and high levels of migration. They have begun tearing holes in the fabric of the EU itself via the Greek crisis of 2015, Brexit, and in the standoff between the Polish and Hungarian governments and the European Commission. Right now, the issue at the front and center of German political minds is the French President Emmanuel Macron's proposal for accelerating Europe's economic integration, which almost everybody in Germany wants to reject. Angela Merkel's CDU-CSU because it implies requiring more fiscal transfers to poor countries in the periphery. The Social Democrats because it will weaken the remaining social protections for workers. The far-right AFD because it means more Europe. Every conversation The Guardian has had with German political and activists since the country's election has revolved around fears that the million-plus recent refugees will not properly integrate, and that tolerance for further social change among older, less educated Germans is at a breaking point. After Brexit has happened, the mature democracies of Europe should be pushing to consolidate their project, telling a coherent, positive story of their increasingly critical electorate. Yet they cannot, because the only coherent story Europe has is more globalism and more market, and that is what the populations are rejecting. Meanwhile, Russia and China are no longer nibbling at the edges. They have begun to gnaw. A new great game is being played in the Eastern Mediterranean. In particular, the West barely has a strategy. Evidence emerged that indicted former Trump advisor George Papadopoulos has made a visit to Athens, coinciding with the visit of President Putin. There's no evidence that they met, but they did not need to. Papadopoulos' interlocutor in the Greek government is the defense minister Panos Kamenos, who heads a small nationalist party in the Syriza-led coalition and is one of the most pro-Kremlin politicians in any NATO government. Now, after the EU ordered the mass privatization of Greek assets, Chinese money has surged in, buying the whole container port of Piraeus and in August signing billions of euros worth of investment deals with Greece. As Kostas Douzinas, the Syriza MP, who heads the Greek Parliament Defense Committee, put it, while the Europeans are acting towards Greece like medieval leeches, the Chinese keep bringing money. If the Germans are making contingency plans for the collapse of Europe and the breakup of the global order, then, presumably, someone at the UK's Defence Academy in Shrevenham is doing the same. It would be better, though, if politicians started engaging the British electorate in a sober and nonpartisan appraisal of the problem we face. Putin's Russia is waging hybrid warfare against Western democracies, not just through cyber attacks or the placing of millions of pounds worth of ads for fake news on Facebook. It is also funding right-wing populist parties and using media influence to revel in the sleaze, corruption, and sclerosis in European democracies. Now, this article is from The Guardian. They have to keep the same propaganda that the United States media is putting forth. So these people are no better than CNN. And CNN is, in fact, fake news. What's true in this article is that the Germans are preparing contingency plans for the complete and utter collapse of all of Europe. That is a fact. The document is real. This whole notion that Russia is our enemy, therefore anybody who meets with Russia is also our enemy, including the President of the United States, whose only duty is to negotiate with foreign powers. That's his only duty. Congress's barely duty is to sign treaties and documents and declare war. But somehow Russia is our enemy, and CNN wants you to think Russia is our enemy. Russia is not our enemy. We have cold, distant relations politically with Russia, but any real politician, any real statesman worth his salt would be trying their very best to speak to Russia and China. Please stop being idiots and listening to people on the news tell you that Russia is our enemy. They're not our enemy. If that were the case, we would have declared war, all-out war, in the 1950s. You do know that Russia was on our side in the 40s and 50s, right? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you forget that part? And Russia was never our enemy. The Cold War, that whole the Russians are going to bomb us, was all made up. And when the Band-Aid was ripped off and Russia's borders were opened up for all to see, Russia was bankrupt, trying to keep up with the spending, the drunken spending Washington was having with buying more nuclear bombs. I'm not against nuclear bombs. I'm against people spending money like drunken sailors, not off of their own dime, off of taxpayers' dime. Taxpayers meaning you, all of you, every single one of you. And for you people who say those people don't pay income tax, you're idiots. Why are you idiots? Because the U.S. government, your local, state, and city government doesn't divide up the taxes that they get into piles. Oh, this pile over here is income tax. This pile over here is sales tax. This pile over here is state tax. They don't do that. You have only to look at Social Security and why Social Security is completely bankrupt. Yes, bankrupt right now, and has been for a long time. They've literally been playing a shell game this entire time. You do know that we're bankrupt, right? You do know that, right? Oh, but we can print money. You know what that means? That means we're playing interest on the interest on the interest of trying to pay back the money that the U.S. government took out to buy nothing, simply to make their friends rich. That's your U.S. government. That's what CNN should be reporting, but CNN is not going to report the actual truth. They want you mad, but they want you mad on their terms. The MSNBC lady said it correctly. We are supposed to control what you think. You should be mad. I don't think you should be mad at Trump. Now, you should probably be mad at everybody surrounding Trump. If you think Trump has power, if you think Trump has say-so, if you think Trump has a sign on his desk that said the buck stops here, you're a complete moron. All of you, the entire world, the Europeans including, commenting on American politics, which they have no idea what the heck our Constitution even says. They keep talking about, why do you need guns? Why the heck do you think we need guns? Because the people in Washington might take over everything. They're trying, slowly, secretly, and surely. The only thing truthful in this Guardian article is that the Germans know what time it is and have no qualms about making a plan about what time it is and what's about to happen. And they said in their document, we've imported millions of enemies into our borders. It would be foolish for us to not to recognize that. But you have women on the streets with signs saying, welcome. I'm done. I'm done with all of you. And the Republicans are no better, please. I'm libertarian. The Republicans are worse. The Republicans say they're for the people. I'm sorry. That's not what they say at all. Trump says he's for the people. The Republicans say, no, we're not. You're not the head of the party. How did that happen? He's the president of the United States. He's supposed to be the head of his party. That's how it works in politics. I don't know if you all know this. I don't know if you establishment Republicans know this. But the president is the head of his party. Because there's nobody who can go higher than the president. Oh, wait a minute. I minced words. Let me not mince words. There's nobody openly who can go higher than the president. Oh, behind closed doors, the shadow government, the people that tell Trump when to jump and how high, those people, oh yeah, they're higher than the president. But you all want to listen to CNN and Fox was against Trump the whole entire time. Let's not forget what has happened. Thank you for watching Shikama Live Show. Please donate to the channel. I am not making any money now. None. Zero. Do you know what zero means? I'm paying money to keep making videos. Markiplier can raise $450,000 in one night, but I can't get people to donate $15. I don't get it. You don't want me. You don't want to listen to me. You don't want to know this stuff. And most of you argue with me. That's not true. I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm sorry. Where did your research come? Let's look at your research. This particular story is all over European news. This particular story is all over the world outside of the United States. Have you heard about it? Thank you for watching the Shikama Live Show.